What's up guys, it's editor Steven here, just to say a few words before this video begins. First of all, this video has taken a while to finish. From the time I first created the Google Doc to the time of me recording this now, it's been 2 months. A lot can happen in 2 months, and a lot of the stuff I say in this video is 2 months old, so I'm going to come in periodically to clarify some things that might be old news now that was relevant 2 months ago. As well as that, this is, at the end of the day, an opinionated video. So there are probably going to be things that you guys don't agree with. That's fine. There are probably things that you guys think that I don't agree with. That's all natural. If there's anything you disagree with in this video, let me know in the comments section down below, because I'm really interested to hear other people's perspectives on this issue. Because, you know, like, there are people that like the community, there are people that don't like the community. It's good to have a good sense of where everyone's at in the community. That's natural for growth. So yeah. With that out of the way, let's get into the video. Osu is a rhythm and aim game created by Dean Herbert in late 2007, inspired by a DS game with the same name released in mid-2005. Over the years, it has grown from a small, dedicated fanbase to having a massive reach in the gaming community, where even the most prolific gaming figures in the entire world use Osu in some way, mostly for aim and reflex practice, but they download it nonetheless. With such a massive community, it's clear that not everything will be perfect. There is no large, perfect gaming community. But Osu is a little bit different than that. You see, our highs are very high. When the Osu community comes together to do something, it gets done. But unfortunately, our lows are also very low. This has given us a very negative reputation across the internet, which I will get into later. So today, I want to discuss that. I want to talk about this community's high points, its low points, and its very, very low points. This is Osu, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But before we get into the real meat and potatoes of this video, I want to discuss a few things. Osu is a game that has reached many corners of the internet. Most people only play the game as some sort of aim practice to warm up for real games like Fortnite, Valorant, or League. The actual community that I want to talk about here are the dedicated players, the people who play Osu as their main game of choice, or at least play it independently, not as some sort of warm-up for another game. This community is caught up to date with all the newest top plays by pro players and all the newest drama. So throughout the duration of this video, when I talk about the Osu community, I'm only referring to that dedicated fanbase that is caught up to date with the drama around the community, and not the people that just play the game as an aim warm-up or whatever. So with that out of the way, let's jump straight into the video. In my opinion, our community is a perfect size. We're a rather small community in the grand scheme of things, with less than 200,000 people in the most active part of our community, our subreddit, which is not a big number in comparison to other gaming communities on Reddit. However, our community is still big enough where if we all come together to do something positive, we can get a lot done. Let's start with r/place. I won't get too far into detail because Brewmaster L already made a great video detailing the specifics of the event, but all you need to know is that the community came together to defend its position on the r/place board from Tyler1, one of the biggest internet personas. We were able to defend our position very well, and if you take a look at the finished r/place monument, there we are, mostly intact. You see, our community was big enough to defend Tyler1, but it was small enough that there weren't too many rogue agents who wanted to destroy our position from the inside. That's more of a lighthearted way the community has come together to support a cause, but we've done some pretty serious good too. An example is after the unfortunate incident which happened at Kyoto Animation Studios, an animation studio which made very prolific animated shows, a few of which had their openings mapped on Osu. Monstrata, along with some others, helped create a 30-minute tribute map set which included songs from Kyoto Animation shows, along with a storyboard containing kind words said by the community. Another plus from the Osu community is that it's easy to make friends. Most of the people who play Osu have similar interests, like anime and certain music tastes. This means that if you meet someone within the community, you guys automatically have a talking point, or a place of middle ground, that you guys can both share your experiences with and bond over. There are several ways one can make friends in Osu. You could just message someone straight up, you could participate in a tournament with them, which is how I met some of my closest Osu friends, or you could join one of several Osu Discord servers. You could join a server based in your area, or you could join the server of one of your favorite content creators, and I'm sure you could find some other like-minded individuals to be your friends. Speaking about content creators, we have plenty. Excluding top players, this includes but is not limited to Bramaster L, as I've talked about before, Beast Troll MC, Spazza17, Tokaku, Willy, and many others. These people spend lots of time making high quality videos for their viewers to enjoy, so it's hard to feel bored in the Osu community. So while our history might not be well documented, our present is being broadcasted to everyone in the community at all times. But of course, we don't just have YouTubers. The Osu community is also very active on Twitch. If you wanted to speak firsthand to some of Osu's top players, you're in luck, because you could find most, if not all, of Osu's top players on Twitch. You could drop in, ask them a couple questions if you like, and overall have a good time with them. And finally, we really need to respect our game dev, Peppy. He's put blood, sweat, and tears into this game for the past 13 years, and he still regularly updates it while working on Osu Laser. Not to mention, he's created an anti-cheat and publicly humiliates people revealed to be cheating through the anti-cheat. I'll get more into that later. But yeah, he's a great dev that listens to community feedback and gets stuff done, while also having a very interesting personality. He's not just some guy working away on his computer 24/7, he actually interacts with the community in a fun way too.
Firstly, while there are other contributors, I am still the main developer of this project. As much as I'd love to spend all my productive hours every day working on only Laser, I do have other distractions, including but not limited to maintenance of OS stable, including seasonal updates and bug fixes, maintenance of the infrastructure that runs OS, which is, constantly growing with the increased influx of users. Replying to every email I receive, every tweet I receive. I really value direct communication with users. A lot of you will probably know that. I've probably talked to a lot of you already.
So to summarize this part of the video, I think the Osu community is great because of its size. It's not small enough where it's inactive, but it's not big enough that it's flooded with activity. In my humble opinion, I think Osu's community is the perfect size. During one of Nalian's Q&As, I asked him what he thinks of the Osu community, and this is what he had to say about it.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
How you doing, my dude? What's up? You have anything to ask?
Yeah, my question is, what are your thoughts on the Osu community as a whole?
I think the Osu community is not that bad. I don't think the Osu community is that bad. People are just taking stuff. People are just trying to do damage control, saying that the Osu community is bad, while in reality, it's just that the Osu community is just small. So a word goes from ear to mouth to ear too fast. So basically, something can happen. Even the smallest things can like make it so half of the people of the community know about it in like a day. Okay, stuff that can be like handled alone and like privately, it gets blown out of proportion because word to mouth. That's the thing. I don't think the Osu community is bad as a whole, because at the end of the day, it's just anime songs. You click on a circle. That's the thing.
Yeah,
it's nothing more than that. It's nothing more than that.
He agrees that Osu's community size is very important, both in the good parts of Osu and the bad parts. And about the bad parts, yeah, there's a lot of them. So, let's talk about them. Buckle up, because we're going deep. Like every somewhat popular gaming community, there is a bad side to Osu's community too. Most of this negativity goes down on Twitter, the hub for rational and well thought out discussions. Where do we begin? Okay, let's start it with the cheating scandal. So there are always going to be people cheating in video games. That's natural. But Osu is different. You see, there's a system, the leaderboards, in which you can directly compare yourself to other players. It's not just playing casually, no. You are up against everyone else always. So when you cheat and climb the ladder in an unfair way, it ruins the experience for everyone you pass. The problem is, Osu hardly has an anti-cheat. So the only way to get cheaters banned is either 1, they slip up and do something obvious, or 2, the community comes together with heavy suspicion of the player and tries to find evidence that would lead to their restriction. And most of the time, it ends up being option 2. The problem with this is that you have to be a generally suspicious person in order to catch cheaters, and the problem with suspicion is that it's not very accurate, and innocent players get dragged down all the time. I mean, this has happened quite a few times in the past. you have Vaxay's restriction, you have Azerite's restriction, and the list goes on. So in order to prevent this, the OSU staff was very stingy with who they decided to ban, which of course meant that actual cheaters didn't get banned. Spare was someone caught in the crossfire of this mess. He was accused by people all over Twitter, on r/OSU report, everywhere, and even had a video made on him by Brummaster Out. Although at the end of the day, it was revealed that he wasn't actually cheating. The community was just looking for things to incriminate him, instead of going with the simpler, more logical reason that he wasn't in fact cheating. Thankfully, due to OSU staff's resistance to ban him, we allowed an innocent player to walk away. But then you had players like Kimmy, Chapek, Dialga, and Tyler, who were all walking freely, even with quite sufficient evidence to have them restricted on OSU report. I believe it was these 4 people's restrictions that started the ban wave. It was when the staff started listening to the complaints of the people who frequented OSU report and who knew the list of outstanding players who deserved to get banned. Here's a funny story. At 1 AM on August 10th, I made a meme called Top 10 Canadian Cheaters, and in this video I included a player known as Badgraph. I woke up the next morning to find he had actually been restricted. Badgraph getting restricted was massive news to the community. He was an incredible tournament and hidden player, and many people, myself included, look up to him as an OSU inspiration. However, of course, there were the people hating on him and knowing that he was cheating all along, and making fun of his albeit childish response to the criticism he received after he was restricted. But there were people that believed this restriction was just a precautionary measure and that he would be unbanned soon. 4 days go by, and Pepe drops a nuclear bomb on the community. The Hall of Shame, where all OSU standard players in the ranks 1 to 1000 who were caught cheating by Pepe's new anti-cheat recently and who were restricted for it, were put on display to be mocked by the entire OSU community. Holy shit. I mean, personally, I think that cheaters are people too. Clearly someone had to be beat down by a significant margin to resort to cheating. But Pepe takes a different approach and clowns these people because they're the absolute scum for cheating in a game so driven by individual, legitimate player performance. He changed his perspective on the 1 to 10,000 ban wave list and said that these people are people too, but by the 1 to 1,000 list, he was still pretty adamant that they were just scumbags. So I guess this situation has started to turn into the good, because the community doesn't need to be as skeptical people now that there's an anti-cheat in the works. But still, the looming thought that one of your friends or inspirations could have been cheating the entire time and that you were looking up to a false idol from the very beginning is a terrifying thought. So I'll leave links to the 1 to 1000 and 1 to 10,000 halls of shame in the description for those of you who are interested. I would highly suggest not bringing these players any more hate because they're clearly upset at this whole situation, and I definitely think they've learned their lesson for the most part. Alright, that was a very long cheating segment, but it's an important one. On the topic of top players though, I'd like to talk about, well, top players. Our community is very lucky because we've had some absolutely dominant number 1 players who have revolutionized the way we play OSU today, or have inspired new generations of players. The likes of Cookie Z, Wubwolf, 8vic225, Raruchi, Rafis, and recently Whitecat. These players have all absolutely dominated the competition in their respective time frames. But then you have players who weren't as dominant, such as Freddie Benson, Mathy, Flying Tuna, and even Idkey, kinda. Except not really, because Idkey revolutionized Hard Rock. I'm only including him here because he held number 1 for a short amount of time. So with all these god tier top players, the community has set their expectations very high for future number 1 players to come. So when you get people like Freddy, Matthew, and Tuna, who, while putting in equal amounts of hard work and dedication, seemingly waltz their way into the top 1 spot without any groundbreaking plays, but instead the same old hidden double time farm maps you'd expect a top player like them to get, well, the community gets disappointed. Nah, disappointed isn't the right term. No, they get furious that a newcomer would possibly defeat an old legend, and continuously hate on the player and shake off their accomplishments because the name attached to the plays isn't one of a living legend. Let's discuss. I'll start off with Mathy, since he was the first of these 3 to get number 1 if my memory serves me right. Mathy took the number 1 spot from Rafis, who took it from Cookie Z in thunderous fashion. You see, Rafis took the record from Cookie Z with a long hidden double time map that no one had FC'd before for 800 PP. And Mathy, the play that really rocketed him towards the spot was a long hidden double time map that no one FC'd before for 800 PP. That's weird. Well, it's because Rafis took the record from someone who had been dominating Osu in their field for years, and finally showed that they could get a taste of their own madness. And Matthew took the #1 spot from Rafis, who's one of the best hidden double time players of all time, with hidden double time. Okay, obviously this isn't a fair comparison. People were upset that Matthew got the record because he played farm maps. I mean, Rafis played farm maps too. Him and HVic pretty much laid the groundwork for all hidden double time farm maps and players to come. No. It's the situation that people can't believe that Rafis was defeated, especially in such a monotone way. Necrophantasia is such a powerful song, and it tells the story about a Polish player named Rafis, who was always exceptionally talented at the game from a long time ago, but was always overshadowed by the dominant Cookiesy and HVic 225, and thus was always in competition for #1, but could never cement his position there. Now, Matthew came out of seemingly nowhere, without nearly the same emotional attachment to the #1 position as Rafis, and swept the rug from under his feet. So, this begs the question, which one deserved the #1 position more? The Polish legend or the Chilean newcomer? Well, both of them equally, because you guys are forgetting what the #1 player means. The leaderboards are based off of PP. Whoever has the most PP is highest on the leaderboard. It's not a personal rating based on how much of a legend you are, it's how efficient you are at getting PP. And Matthew is undoubtedly much more efficient at getting PP than Rafis. I mean, look at how quickly Rafis fell. The #1 player is not decided by the fan base based on who they like the most. It's decided by themselves farming PP. So of course Matthew's gonna farm to get #1. You'd have to be an idiot not to. So I get it. The contest to get #1's boring. Yes, it's not as thunderous or as emotional as Rafis taking it from Cookiesy, because now there are plenty of players who are good at hidden double time maps. But that's nothing personal against Matthew. He grinded just as hard as Rafis to get that position, and he deserved it. So next up in this whole hidden double time farm conversation, let's talk about Flying Tuna. Well, the community liked it when Flying Tuna got it. Okay, I guess let's talk about Idki. The battle between Idki and Vaxei was interesting, because for once in the entire history of Osu, the #1 player didn't rely on double time to get there. So people liked Idki. It really seems like Matthew and Freddie Benson were the only ones that got hit by Osu Games' hypocrisy the most. So let's talk about Freddie Benson now. From reading his Reddit post and the video of him getting the #1 spot, there's really not a lot of hate, but there's also not a lot of people congratulating him on the position either. Instead, it's people talking about how boring the #1 race is, how people can come seemingly out of nowhere, farm the same maps from the same mappers in the same way, and boom, they get to the top. Instead of congratulating him for this massive accomplishment, they talk about how boring the #1 race is now that so many different people are capable of getting the #1 spot. And I get it, I do, to some extent. I understand that the community has these absurdly high expectations on what a #1 player should be, from the likes of Cookiesy, Wubblewolf, etc. But at the same time, all the #1 position means is that you have the most PP out of anyone else. So of course, if the meta is farming Sotark's hidden double time maps, then they should farm hidden double time Sotark's maps. Not doing so is stupid. But what I really don't understand is if someone farms maps to get the #1 most PP, they aren't really congratulated, but rather guilt tripped for getting #1 in such a mundane fashion.
Let's go! Let's go!
It completely disregards the insane amount of perseverance and willpower they must have had in order to grind to #1 in such a competitive environment. Recently, Emrek has experienced a bit of backlash because when he farms, everyone gets upset, but when Whitecat farms, everyone likes it. It's the same bias really. The community only wants a specific amount of people to get #1, and I can guarantee that if someday Emrek snatches that #1 position from Whitecat, the community will not be very happy about it. And as of recording this video right now, Lifeline has recently achieved top 10, and he's receiving the same kind of hate Matthew got because he doesn't have any unique scores. Way to go, guys. So, if the day comes that Emrek passes Whitecat, let's be the change that this community needs. Let's congratulate Emrek, because he grinded hard to get where he is today. And let's congratulate Lifeline as well. It's an incredible achievement. Even if he doesn't have any unique scores, let's still congratulate him, because that's a lot of effort that goes into getting top 10. So, next up, I'd like to talk about the Osu mapping Twitter. Osu mapping Twitter is so toxic that I'd probably have to make a whole video just to talk about it, which I really don't want to, so let's hone in on one specific topic, Aspire. Aspire is a yearly competition in which creators come together and make maps that push the limits of what was thought to be possible on Osu. To the average player, or someone who's just heard of Osu, it doesn't seem like there's many limits to push in this game, considering the fact that it is just circles, sliders, and spinners. It started out simple, just like making a really innovative map. Then it turned into sliders not starting and ending at a continuous velocity, along with slider art. Then it turned into whatever this is. Then it turned into manipulating the storyboard and creating your own minigames within a minigame, albeit Aleph Null did significantly better and earlier than this map, might I add. So, going into the 5th rendition of Aspire, the expectations were through the roof, but there really just wasn't that much left to innovate. This is where people would start to get really disappointed. I used an analogy to discuss Aspire on Twitter, and I'll say it here. When you were a kid and you saw a movie with incredible visual effects, it blew your mind. You weren't sure how they were able to capture spaceships and blasters and explosions the size of Earth on a camera, and you loved it. Now at your current age, you aren't as impressed. You know how the tricks are done more or less, and I'm fairly certain that you will never be blown away by visual effects ever again. The exact same comparison can be made towards Aspire. You've seen all the cool tricks and have been impressed earlier, and now there's not much more to be impressed by. The thing is, you don't have to rethink everything you know about visual effects and turn the whole industry on its head just to make an impressive movie. You could just, make a good movie. Same goes with Aspire maps. They don't have to revolutionize everything you thought was possible on Osu. You just have to make a good map that uses all of those previous features properly instead of just experimenting with them. One can argue that that's not what Aspire is all about, because Aspire is about pushing boundaries with innovation. But I disagree. Previous Aspires have only dipped their toes into the mechanics that they introduced, so it's entirely possible that we could see several new renditions of Aspires using those previous mechanics, but in new ways. Anyways, back to Aspire 5. The two winners of this Aspire were Snor from Mapper's Choice, and Time Traveler for Player's Choice. In my opinion, these two are the best Aspire maps this pool in their respective categories. It encompasses everything that Aspire, aspires to be, no pun intended. Time Traveler has great gameplay and the storyboard is so minimalist yet so effective, and Snor is just incredible. However, not a lot of people agree with this opinion. In fact, a lot of people outright disagree. So, where would someone hear this public outcry, blaming the creators of Aspire and the people that created the maps? That's right, Osu Anonymous. Let's take a quick break from all this Aspire talk to talk about this Twitter account. There are so many words I would like to say about this Twitter account, but I'm pretty sure I would get banned from YouTube and everyone watching this video would never look at me the same way again, so I won't. But oh my goodness, these takes. I understand that people purposely put dumb takes in this account for the attention and to troll some people, but seriously? This account should be a place where, actually, I don't really think there's a purpose for this account. I guarantee that instead of having people submit their takes anonymously through a Google Sheet, they instead post their takes on their own Twitter public accounts and Osu Anonymous simply retweeted the best ones they find, at least 50% of the takes on that account would not exist. But then again, I'm sure the account would be nowhere near as popular. I guess the moral of this story is that there are people so desperate out there for attention that they are willing to get bad attention rather than good attention because attention is attention. And yes, it delivers. Countless people in the replies of these cold takes are always calling out how stupid Anon is for delivering such an awful take, which is of course feeding the fire, even if they know it's bait. Anyways, back on topic. Snor. Fangen's entry. People don't like it because, it's buggy, and it's just a bunch of random stuff put throughout the map. Random. Not quite random. Fangen did an excellent write-up behind all the details of this map. It's a great read, and I recommend you guys read it. Not only is this map purposefully planned, but there are actually hidden Easter eggs included to solve some sort of puzzle. If that isn't boundary pushing, breaking the fourth wall in such a way, I don't know what is. All in all, Snor represents one side of Aspire. It represents the side of people breaking the game in crazy ways. Placing objects ridiculously throughout the map, gimmicks, just messing around. It is pushing the competition in the literal way, and people didn't like it. So I guess on to the second Aspire winner, Time Traveler. People just didn't like this one. They thought the rewind gimmick was bad, drew comparison to Mope. Seriously? Listen, I need you guys to listen to me for a second. Mope Mope is not an Aspire level map. It's quirky and creative, having a scary Osu map, but really? You made the storyboard girl act weird? It barely affected the gameplay, which was not the focal point of the map anyways, and so it's so underwhelming. Time Traveler, on the other hand, actually has interesting gameplay and a storyboard gimmick that adds to the map. It is subtle, being black for most of the gameplay, which is admirable in its own right, and then rewinds when there are no circles on the screen in order to create a non-convoluted, playable map. Not to mention, the song is called Time Traveler and the gimmick is going back in time? Who comes up with this stuff? This Aspire winner is the opposite of Znor. It doesn't revolutionize mapping, it's not laggy, instead it uses the storyboard in a creative way and shows something we have not seen before. And people didn't like it either. I guess this leads us to another negative thing about the Osu community. That is, the Osu hive mind is impossible to satisfy. They can always find something wrong. Let's take one of the most hated Osu community figureheads, Sotarks. If Sotarks was to completely stop PP mapping and work on projects he actually enjoys making, because surprise surprise, it's very hard to make a PP map without blowing your brains out from boredom, the community would still hate him. They'd say he's social climbing, doing the mainstream thing by not mapping PP, and of course, the people that farm Sotarks maps would be just as upset that they can't farm anymore. And if Sotarks decided to never work on any other personal projects again and solely devoted himself to PP mapping until the end of time, well, I'm sure you could see the problem the community would have with that. You know, Osu kinda reminds me of politics. Like you have two main parties, let's say farmers and non-farmers, although it can be divided into several other two categories aside from farming, and you can never please them both. You'll always have anger. And because Osu is such a small community in the grand scheme of things, this hate pours out. It's not blocked out by the positive side of the community, it's on display for the whole community to see. That's what makes the very, very rare occasions that the community actually all comes together so special, because it just doesn't happen often. So let's take a small break from Twitter as we unwind on the negatives. We're almost done this section, don't worry. r/Osu game isn't perfect either, and its negative hive mind can be just as harmful and hypocritical. Let's discuss the case of XX Fortnite Pro XX. I know, great username. But first, I know, I always do these cuts, but you need to realize that Osu has many different playstyles with many different players using them. There are tablet keyboard players, TapX or just tablet players, mouse and keyboard players, mouse only players, hybrid players where they use the tablet or mouse for single tapping and keyboard to alternate, touchscreen only, touchscreen for single tapping and keyboard for tapping, touchscreen dragging and tapping with keyboard. The list really goes on. And along with these physical playstyles, a lot of people have preferred maps to play and ways to play them. For instance, some people double tap jumps for more stability, such as Howl Water. Actually, that might not be the best example. But you get the idea. People play in their own ways, and, as long as it's legit, it should be fine. Emphasis on should. Meet Fortnite Pro. He is what you might call a masher, or someone who mashes their keyboard, disregarding note patterns and rhythm, and can pass very fast maps with this strategy, although many people don't like this playstyle as it disregards one of Osu's two pillars, rhythm, the other pillar being aim. The community doesn't really like him, but not necessarily because they think he's cheating. I mean, there are a lot of people who thought he was cheating, but he produced live plays, and they weren't happy with the live plays. I don't know why. It's like they had some personal vendetta against him or something. Fortnite Pro did what the community asked of him, but it wasn't enough. On every score post someone made about one of his plays, you can guarantee one of the most upvoted comments would be someone saying, "Mash, don't care." I'm not sure if they were doing it ironically or not, but I mean, I'm positive there were plenty of people looking at these plays and thinking the same thing. When people would defend him with actual logic, saying how two-sided the community was with praising another person but bashing on Fortnite Pro, it got downvoted into the ground. If you didn't agree with the Reddit hive mind that this person is a bad player and is cheesing maps, then you were against the people. You got downvoted. He got restricted around 4 times, I believe. As of writing the script, he was still restricted, but as of recording it right now, he actually got unrestricted. I read a post on Osu Game about this whole situation around 2 months ago, or something like that, which is why I'm bringing it up today. Because it talks about how hypocritical everyone was in the whole situation, and the post got an overwhelming amount of support. What? You're telling me the same people that were complacent when Fortnite Pro supporters got downvoted into the ground, the same people that said Mash don't care on all of his scores and upvoted those comments, the same people who called him gay after posting a live play that they wanted themselves are the same people upvoting this post and saying that the hypocrisy isn't fair? Are you kidding me? The moral of this story is that the community is never wrong. Sorry, that was a really big tangent, but I needed to get that off my chest. So, that's the end of the bad part of the community. I know it was a lot. I'll try to be a bit briefer in the next part, but believe me, it gets worse from here. Quick disclaimer before we get started, I talk about some pretty messed up stuff here. If you're uncomfortable with minor attracted people, I suggest skipping to the time shown on screen now. Thanks. If you don't play Osu but you've heard of the community, or maybe in the off chance you've seen a mainstream meme about Osu, this is what you've heard of. That Osu is full of pedophiles. There are two very important parts of this topic that I want to discuss. One, why do people have this conception about the community? And two, is it true? So let's jump straight into it. When you look up pedo on Osu game, there's one name you see more than others, Rohulk. Many people know the story. Or at least they think they do. So let's talk about Rohulk. It's a very complicated story with a lot of lying and misconception, so I'm going to be as absolutely minimalistic about the topic as possible and only touch on the major agreed facts. There's a lot that goes into this story, and if you have something to share about that, please be my guest. And if I get something wrong about what I'm about to say, please let me know in the comments down below. I will quickly correct it. So, here goes. Rohulk is over 18. Rohulk sends a video of him jacking off to a female who is around 14 years old. The videos get leaked, and the community calls him a pedophile. There's a lot of controversy about this topic. There's some discussion on whether the person is underage, although I'm pretty certain that bit's for real. There's some discussion on whether Rohulk really knew the person was underage at the time of recording and sending that video. There's discussion on Romanian age consent and those laws. It's a really messy situation. No pun intended. The age of sexual consent in Romania is 15. The girl is 14, so that excuse is no good. But that's really as far as I want to get into in the Rohulk topic, because as far as I'm concerned, all parties involved in the scandal are on reasonable terms with each other, and we've all kind of moved on. Well, not really. They have, but we haven't. This was massive news. Rohulk was in the top 25 players in the world around this time, and to be exposed for something this heinous as such a prolific community figurehead would surely leave a mark. Nowadays, the seriousness of the situation has long passed, but people still make pedophile jokes to this day. Rohulk wasn't the only person accused, though. In fact, I'd like to say that Yong, another person accused of this act, is a bit worse, seeing as he actually admitted to liking underage people himself. Yeah, it wasn't leaked. He said he liked elementary school girls on his Twitter. That's a whole other level of fucked up. There's a bit of discussion I'd like to get into about this kind of community of MAPs on Twitter. It's not necessarily have to do with Osu, but Yong kinda. If you don't know, it stands for minor attracted people. People who admire children from a distance, but because they never act on their feelings, they're better than pedophiles. If you believe this, fuck you. If you like children, whether you intend to have sexual intercourse with them or simply fantasize about doing so, you were fucked in the head. And to be so ignorant as to praise this on social media as if it was some sort of accomplishment, fuck you, man. So yeah, this definitely adds to the whole pedo thing. But this whole pedo thing, it isn't about Rohulk, and it isn't about Yong, although they definitely added to the situation by doing what they did. I think it's just about the game itself. Most people that make pedophile memes that don't play Osu, I don't think they know who Rohulk or Yong are. Osu is a rhythm game. The thing is that English and many European songs just aren't fast enough or intricate enough to make entertaining gameplay. However, Asian songs are. A lot of anime openings are used in Osu, and this gives the correlation that Osu is an anime game, even though Osu by definition is a rhythm game, not necessarily an anime game. That's just what it's connoted to be. And I guess lolly culture is a big part of anime culture for some reason, so people draw that connection in their heads, that Osu is an anime game, anime has to do with lollies, and people that like lollies are pedophiles. This topic isn't one that people like talking about in the community, because it just isn't true. Every game has their fair share of pedophiles in the community. It's natural. It's fucked, but that's just how it is. Osu is just a rhythm game with a lot of anime songs, which means there are most likely more lollies, and we have more prolific figureheads getting caught for enjoying this kind of thing. But to call Osu a pedophile game is like calling Minecraft a murderer game. because in the game you kill mobs and animals, and some people that play Minecraft are also murderers in real life. No one would make that connection, so I urge you guys to stop calling Osu a pedo game, or encouraging others to do so. Not only is it a dead meme, but it's very harmful to our community's already very damaged reputation. I hope this cleared any things up with people who are unaware of the community. I was only planning on talking about pedophiles for this part, seeing as I designated ugly for only the most heinous of crimes committed by Osu, but I stumbled across another thing that fits the bill pretty well. Regardless of where on earth you live, regardless of what politics you believe in, I'm pretty sure it's widely known that the thing that happened to George Floyd is not a good thing, and it certainly isn't funny. So, I somehow stumbled across this picture on Twitter. I'm going to blur it out a bit because, come on man, I genuinely cannot understand why someone would think this is funny. Well, I mean, other than the fact that these guys are messed up individuals, why am I bringing this up? Well, here's the controversy. Osu staff bans 2 players for having this profile picture collab over a year ago. For those of you who don't know what a profile picture collab is, it's where several people take a picture with different entities in it and put their name beside an entity. It's several profile pictures with names in one picture, and most of the time, it's just a bit of harmless fun. But some people really like to push limits, and not in a good way, in a really, really bad way. So let's get back to this profile picture collab, the one that got the 2 people using it restricted. The person pictured on the left is a mass murderer, not a good guy. The 2 people in the collab got restricted. Personally, I think this is a valid punishment. You shouldn't have this guy as your profile picture. But then it's revealed that there are these 2 other profile pictures that are as bad, if not worse, but the participants in these profile picture collabs didn't get restricted, and certainly not for the same amount of time as the original 2. Hey guys, editor Steven here. I'm just coming in here to clarify a couple things because I did a really bad job at explaining it. Basically, the people involved in the Elliot Roger collab were both restricted for 6 months. The people in the collab I'm about to show you, the Trump Epstein one, were restricted for 0 time at all. They weren't restricted at all. And the people involved in the George Floyd collab were both all silenced for 2 days. None of them were restricted. Just a silence. Hopefully that clears things up because I guess I didn't know how to speak English. Also, the profile pictures for the George Floyd collab were all reverted, so they don't have that picture anymore. The first one is a picture with Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. To the untrained eye, there isn't really that much wrong with that. Of course, you are glorifying a pedophile. Way to go, Osu community. But to someone who doesn't know that, it just looks like 2 dudes. It's still messed up, and the people who participated in the collab should be restricted as fair punishment. And then you have this collab, where 5 people share the faces of the 4 policemen involved in the George Floyd murder, and 1 person plays George Floyd. Are you kidding me? In what universe would anyone think this is acceptable? This is not okay, and I could see why people scrolling through Osu Twitter would realize that we're messed up in the head as a community, because things like this are absolutely disgusting. These people should be restricted. But they just weren't restricted. Osu staff is picking and choosing who gets restricted for what punishment and who doesn't. Either everyone who does a profile picture like this should be restricted for the same amount of time, or no one should. Personally, I think it should be the former. But on a more serious note, the dimwits who thought it would be a good and funny idea to do a George Floyd collab, there are many words I would like to describe these people. It is not okay. Alright, just a quick side note because I wrote this part of the script over a month before I started narrating it. Pretty much everyone has forgotten about this George Floyd collab. So, the only person out of the original collab to be restricted is one guy who got restricted for cheating. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to bring these people attention. Now, I could use 10,000 words to describe what I don't like about the community, and it would be very intricate, long, boring. Most of you guys wouldn't watch. But luckily, this picture does a perfect job at describing it so simply. The community is unhinged. Okay, I'm sorry guys. I know I just ranted about you guys for a very long time. This video is kind of a bummer, and I'm sorry for that. But if you look on the bright side, we're just like any other gaming community. We have our toxic side, our criminal side, but we also have a good side. We have content creators that are giving back to the community, such as Nalian, BTMC, and countless others. We're all just trying our best. There are genuinely good people within the community. people that want to make it a better place. So, all that I want you guys to do, all that I want you guys to take away from this video, is just spread some positivity around the community. Type some wholesome things into Osu Anonymous. Or better yet, block that account and stop posting on it. Tell your favorite content creators how much they mean to you. Support them by any means necessary. Make sure the positive outweighs the negative. Ignore the hateful hive mind of Reddit that just downvotes everything, but listen to those individuals who are sharing constructive criticism. Not everyone will agree with you at all times, but if their criticism is constructive and they just want to make sure you become the best person you could be, listen to them and ask them what to improve on. And overall, just be good people. You might not consider this era to be the golden age of Osu. You might not like the PP meta, you might not like the top players, hell, you might just hate the game. But at the end of the day, we're all just people clicking circles to the beat. There is no social hierarchy, no elitism, none of us are better than the other. Unless, of course, they're committing crimes. I want to give back to the community too. At the end of the day, you guys have made my life much better. You've been supportive of me, you've produced some of my best online friends, and you've provided me with an opportunity to produce content, some of my finest creativity, to such a wide audience. So thank you. I'm not entirely sure yet what I want to do to give back to the community, but I'll do something soon. And thank you guys for watching this video until the very end. I'll see you next time.